Welcome to The Standard. Coming to you from Vancouver, I'm Randall Mark. One of the best-known skeptics of global warming takes the hot seat. Many people believe the argument should have been over a long time ago that global warming is caused by human activity, and that the damage being done to the planet can be reversed if we collectively change our ways. But my guest tonight certainly does not feel this way. In fact, he said the human contribution of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, the alleged cause of global warming, is the greatest deception in the history of science. Dr. Timothy Ball is the chairman of the National Resources Stewardship Project, holds a PhD in science from the University of London, and was for 32 years professor of climatology at the University of Winnipeg. Welcome, Dr. Ball.
Well, I should correct that. It's
sure.
25 years at the University of Winnipeg.
Okay,
so
great.
Not the 32 years.
Okay, well,
there's a lot of misinformation out there about me. And by the way, I like to think I'm not on the hot seat. I'm on the cool seat.
Okay. Oh, I like that. The global warming.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Good. Let me start off right off the bat with kind of one of the questions that I had and many people had on this issue, because I mean this issue is religious almost in its heat.
Environmentalism is religious.
It is.
This is the ultimate religion.
So here's the question I have, and see if you can respond to this. We have the UN Panel on Climate Change. The IPCC writes a 1,000-page scientific document claiming that global warming is in fact caused by human activity. The G8 countries, UK, France, Germany, Italy, Russia, Canada, Japan, United States, China, India, Brazil, all come on board. All their national science institutes come on board and say, we agree with this. You say either all those scientists are liars or you're smarter than them. What is it?
Well, it could be both. The answer is, first of all, that consensus is not a scientific fact. When I started studying climate back in the 70s, the consensus was global cooling.
Okay.
And of course, that proved to be wrong. And I was as opposed to that as I am to this argument about human-caused global warming. The IPCC is a purely political organization. Its numbers have varied. It started out at 3,000. It went down to 600. It's now at 2,500. Most of them, the vast majority of them, I think there's only about 8 or 9 that are actually climate experts or have any ability in climate. The rest of them are specialists in one small area. So you might have somebody who's a specialist in methane, for example. And in fact, one of the things that's happened with the IPCC is that there have been a lot of very well-qualified people say, we don't like what's going on here, and have quit. Chris Landsea, for example, is a hurricane expert. The IPCC, from its inception, has been a political organization.
So they're political, they have an agenda. What's their agenda?
Well, the agenda is the agenda of Maurice Strong.
Okay.
He's the guy that helped set it up. He's the guy that organized the Rio conference, and I'm sad to say he's a farm boy from Manitoba. He's a Canadian. Maurice Strong said many years ago that the problem for the planet are the industrialized nations, and isn't it our duty to get rid of them? Now, I'm not here to defend industry. Yeah, there's pollution, there's some problems. That's not the issue. But Strong has said about this idea. Now, how do you shut an industrialized nation down? Well, you can't shut off the energy supply to an engine because, as you know, as soon as the gas price goes up, everybody screams. But you can stop an engine by plugging the exhaust. And the exhaust of the industrialized nations is CO2. So they focused on CO2 and said, look, this is killing the planet, it's destroying the planet.
And you're saying it's not killing the planet?
No, not at all.
CO2 is the best thing. Bring it on. Global warming, you love it.
Well, Al Gore says in his movie, which is a wonderful piece of propaganda, he says CO2 is the most important gas in the atmosphere. He's wrong for the wrong reason.
Okay, why is he wrong?
Well, because CO2, without CO2, there are no plants, and without plants, there's no oxygen, therefore there's no life on Earth.
But in excess of it through industrial evolution, no, you're saying no. We want more.
We want more because...
Let's keep polluting.
No, you see, then you got the confusion.
Okay, tell me my confusion.
CO2 is not a pollutant.
Okay.
It's a naturally occurring gas. And for example, you can be in a room with 100 people. By the end of the meeting, the CO2 levels in that room can be 2,000 parts per million, when the average for the Earth is 385 parts per million. It doesn't cause any problems. The plants in the room love it. And in fact, if you go to the Delta here, to the greenhouses that everybody's familiar with, they're pumping 1,000 and 1,200 parts per million of CO2 into those greenhouses because the plants grow 4 times more effectively and use less water. And all the research done on plant growth shows that they function best at about 1,000 parts per million. So you could very legitimately argue that at 385, the plants are malnourished, undernourished. And yet people want to reduce that amount.
But doesn't it come across the sense of just the enormity? Are you saying this is a massive conspiracy to ramp up people's fear about global warming?
Well, fear is certainly...
think about the disasters and the issues in the climate and the weather issues.
Yeah.
Are you saying none of that's connected to human issues?
Exactly what I'm saying. Exactly what I'm saying. You mentioned the word fear. Michael Crichton, okay, it's a novel, but he analyzes the use of fear by the environmental movement to get people on side, and it's certainly very effective. What they've basically done here, and you can see it in Gore's movie, is they've taken natural events and said they're unnatural, which of course means then that you can never be wrong, because the natural events will continue to happen. And of course what's happening is that the media are focusing on them. Now, you know that you're introduced to somebody, and it seems like every time you turn around, there's their name or there they are. They were always there. They were just not part of your world. Because the climate's become an issue, the media are rushing now to every single event throughout the world. CNN is there in a flash.
Put a camera on it.
Put a camera on it, and yeah. When in fact those things were going on. And just to illustrate, the worst year for tornado deaths in the U.S. was 1905. 254 people died in 1905. And there weren't many people living in Tornado Alley at that time. But that's not what the public are led to believe.
Should the humans, I mean, as human beings, is there anything we should do about issues of global warming, or should we just kind of let it happen? Should we curb any of our activities at all? Do you believe that going greener is good?
Well, of course. And satellite studies from NASA show that the plant life is growing on the Earth. And certainly without that, it's certainly better than going the other way. But the first thing we've got to do is stop, global warming. Notice it's morphed into climate change now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me pick up that conversation. More with Dr. Timothy Ball right after this break.